Hey guys, what's up? This is Panzer Dragon, and today we'll be doing episode 7 of Mechanics. This series is all about showing you flash tricks if the champion has them, or just showing you some cool tips and tricks with them. And in this series, we'll be going through every champion in the game, as every champion has something unique about them and only they can do. In this video, we'll be featuring Irelia, Janna, Jarvan, Jax, Jayce, and Jinx, which is all the champions from I to J. And so with all that being said, let's get started. Alright, so the first champion we're going to be going over is Irelia. And a general tip when laning against the enemy is when you're trying to trade, always try to find a low hit point minion and execute it with your Q. Right after you're going to want to try and use your E onto the enemy, and then start bashing the enemy with your auto attacks in a 10 style. And then you would hold on to your Q until the enemy gets out of range from your auto attacks, or even hold on to it as an escape in case the enemy jungler might come. Either way, you get 2 gap closers onto the enemy, and it's also really good for when you're trying to assassinate enemy squishy, since 2 gap closers coming from Irelia is really hard to deal with for an AD carry. So if you ever see that you can execute a minion beside an enemy, always try to do so before gap closing onto your target. And taking this technique a bit farther, if there aren't any low hit point minions around, try using your ultimate to whittle them down so you can execute them. Also do know, once you get your Trinity Force, you can execute ranged minions with your W and Q. But after 30 or 35 minutes, I'm pretty sure the ranged minions can't be executed and one-shot by Irelia's Q anymore. So do take note of that. The next champion we're going to be showing is Janna. And basically you can interrupt any kind of gap closer that is coming towards you as long as you time it right and knock them up at the right time. This is really useful for, say, in lane when you're getting ganked by a Jarvan or someone with a gap closer like Rengar's ultimate, so that you don't have to blow any of your summoners. And again, same concept with Janna's Monsoon. You can cancel the enemy's gap closer onto you or even your own AD carry if they try and come at you. Another trick with their ultimate is that if you use your ultimate and hit someone into the wall, it's going to be like a 1-second stun, as with all knockbacks into the wall, and this can be useful for, say, 2v2ing in the lane and you want to try and CC the enemy without pushing him away. And final tip for Janna, I see a lot of lower ELO do the flash R Monsoon trick where you push an enemy to your team. But most of the time what ends up happening is they usually put themselves in a bad position and don't have any other escapes after doing that initiation. And so since Janna doesn't have her ulti to reset the team fight and has no flash, she's just going to end up dying and get focused on. Unless you know it's a good play, then I don't recommend you doing this trick, as you're giving up a lot of utility like resetting the team fight and giving heals to your teammates. Alright, so next up we're going to be explaining a lot of Jarvan tricks that you can do with him, as he is a pretty unique champion with his EQ. We'll be starting with the basic stuff, so the first one is going to be the EQ and then R initiation from a distance without hitting them with the EQ. Good for catching people out, but not the best for team fighting, as you don't have your EQ to knock up people up. The next trick we're going to be showing is the one-shot Jarvan combo with time at. So basically what you want to do is EQ onto the enemy, and then while you're in midair, you want to cast the time mat so you don't have to use it when you are out of the animation. And then of course use your ultimate to finish them off and trap in your pit so you can duel them. This trick is just basically showing you that you can use your time mat while in midair, and that you don't have to use it when you come out of the midair animation, so that you can just keep autoing or stutter stepping with your enemy. Another trick with Jarvan is that you can actually get 2 knockouts with just 1 flag, as long as you have 5 points in the queue. And this actually opens up a lot of plays that Jarvan can do, as if he's engaging onto the enemy, he can actually retreat to his flag if he needs an escape, or of course, he can knock out the enemy twice and get pretty good CC out of it. So when you play as Jarvan, always take note where flag is and what the situation is and how you can use it to your advantage. The next trick with Jarvan is going to be an interesting way of using his ultimate. So not only is Jarvan's ultimate a great initiation tool, it's also a pretty good disengage tool. Let's say the enemy wants to engage on you, so they have Irelia's Righteous Glory and all these movement speed items to catch up to you and engage on you. What you can do is use your ultimate on their front line, and then using your EQ to get out of your own pit, and now the enemy has to go through your terrain or go around it to try and engage on you. Of course, this is very situational. Say if you know you're going to lose the next team fight, then this is how you can get out of that sticky situation. And finally, the last trick is going to be a flash trick. So basically what you can do is use your EQ combo and then flash onto an enemy. When you flash onto the enemy will be knocked up and be CC'd for a short while, just like the EQ combo. This trick does not apply any of the damage that Jarvan's E or Q does, since they are both skill shots and they aren't hitting the enemy, so you won't be using this trick that much. The only time it would be useful is if you absolutely need to CC to lock down the enemy or take him down. The next champion we're going to be showing is with Jayce. And so a little trick with him is at the beginning of the game, you can start your wolves, and when you're done the wolves, you'll be level 2, and then you can recall, buy some pots, and have an advantage over the enemy with your items, and of course level. A lot of champions in the top lane are starting to do this. Jayce is just one of them, and also I tested this on the enemy's red. He can actually solo it at level 1 with a orange blade and a health pot. Also, when teleporting to lane, I actually teleported to the tower, but probably what you should do is teleport to a minion so that you don't miss any XP, and you also deny the enemy a creep since you're level 2 and have the trade advantage over him, so they'll be cautious to take that creep if you're around. Another tip for Jayce when trading at level 1 is that you can trade really efficiently if you auto attack the enemy and draw aggro from their creeps and then start activating your E, since your E does bonus damage by the amount of times Jayce has dodged an enemy's attack, and of course you also don't take damage. And my favorite trick is spamming Jayce's ultimate sound effect proc by cancelling your auto attacks with S or whatever your stop key is. I find this trick to be really hilarious, and I know it works with Shen, but it's just so funny because it's just so annoying, and you know, it's just a really good way to stay in shape. So if you do the trick correctly, this is what it sounds like. Alright, so with that troll trick out of the way, let's move on to Jayce. Alright, so for a tip with Jayce is, say when you're moving around the map, try to make the gate point towards whichever way you want to go, so that you have the movement speed buff for a longer duration. Also spam your R when you want to get from one place to another, as it does give you a movement speed buff and it costs no mana. Next tip for Jayce, when you're shooting your EQ combo, don't actually do EQ. Try QE. The reason this is better is because when the enemy sees your acceleration gate, that means there's a highly likely chance that you're probably going to use Q right after, so there's just a bit more reaction time for the enemy to try and dodge it, and it's actually a fairly easy trick to do. The next trick is going to be using your Q to get vision of a creep so that you can Q over to it and hop a wall. This trick also works with his E, so if your Q is down for whatever reason, you can use your E to get vision of an enemy and then hop over to it. The next trick is going to be some wall hops with Jayce. So as you guess, you're going to use your E and then you're going to Q over to the minion that you knocked back into. The minion that you knocked back will have brief vision of it, so you don't have to use your Q or E to reveal vision of it. And so if you ever are in a sticky situation and you need to cross the border, just press the letters E and Q. And so for the final champion we'll be talking about is Jinx. So there's not actually any cool advanced tricks that I know of, so I'll just be giving some general gameplay tips for her. So in teamfights, you always want to have your fish bones, aka the rocket launcher in teamfights, out instead of your minigun. The reason behind this is because you want to be more safe, so you don't want the enemy gap closing onto you and then catching you out with CC and killing you. The only time you'd actually pull out your minigun in teamfights is, say, the enemy gap close to you and now you gotta kite them. And another tip for using flame jumpers is try to use it to zone enemies from getting to you. So putting it in a position where the enemy has to walk through you and then now they have to walk around it or on it to get to you. As you can see, the flame jumpers here is a good placement for putting against tanks who don't have any gap closers. But if you're working against, say, people who have gap closers and can get to you quickly, you're going to want to try and put it by your feet, so if they do come to you, then they'll have to deal with the flame jumpers first. Anyways, that is the end of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. For the next video that we'll be doing, it will be 13 tips or like 15 tips on improving as a jungler in Season 5. So if you're interested in a video like that, then there will be an annotation in this video right about here when it is available on DVD and VHS. So be sure to check back to this channel when it is available, and there might be a chance that it comes out as a free online edition on this channel right here, as long as you subscribe and look out for it. Anyways, I am Panzer Dragon, and I'll see you guys next time.